Hello. How are we doing? I'm Keith. I am your meditation teacher here on this channel. That Tracy has just reminded me has been going on for a long time. Tracy, that's so cool. You've been here for 4 years. That's incredible. That's what I like. I always think about you guys because we've been doing this so long, and so many of you show up so regularly. It's so wonderful and cool. Really creates an awesome space for new people to learn too. Hey, Lucia. So, hey, Pat. Um, I'm Keith. If you're new, this is meditation breaks, and on meditation breaks, we learn about meditation. Asa, Rob, how you doing? Um, Here on this particular channel, I like to teach in a way that is I try to be like accessible to utilizing the concepts of meditation in your normal life. um, and while we do learn like traditional sitting down eyes closed meditation, that's only one version of meditation, and there's a ton of opportunity to turn a lot of the things that you do during your day into a meditative practice. So that's all to say that each week we kind of look at something different, a new theme, a new topic, if you will. Um, Today's topic, hey, Antonio. Today's topic is going to be about space, not outer space, but like space distance or whatever, and how mental space and physical space can be looked at, to see how they impact our kind of perspective on things. So you might be saying, well, that sounds cool, but I don't know how to meditate. And if that's the case, no worries. Each week I start every session with a little introduction to what meditation is, how does it work, why bother doing this thing, is it for me, all those questions that you may be asking yourself or thinking about. We're going to cover those, and then we're going to do a very short breathing meditation together, to get everyone kind of situated, like, oh, that's how you do it, not so bad. And then we'll move on to our topic. All right, so the last thing I'll say before I officially stop rambling, is if you have any questions, or maybe like sometimes I mumble, you're like, I didn't catch that, or you just have a comment, you can always use the chat. And I will answer the question as soon as I see it. So you don't have to like wait for me to be like, oh, it's question time, or does anyone have any questions? Just fire away, and I'll do my best to see it. Antonio, I was wondering if I could send him. Yes, sir. Sorry. Been the last 2 weeks have been a little crazy. I had back-to-back weddings to go to. Oof. Yes, I would love to. I'll let's email after. Cool. So what is this meditation thing? We all have an idea of what it is, even if you've never done it before. And that's because there is a very specific image that comes to mind when we think about meditation. It's somebody sitting down cross-legged like this with their eyes closed. And that is the most kind of ubiquitous image for meditation. It's actually pretty challenging to like, if you were to like research meditation or like images, it's hard to find stuff that isn't that. And so it's no surprise that that image, somebody sitting down cross-legged, etc., has become what we associate with a meditation practice, right? And this meditation practice, sitting down cross-legged, etc., is a way you can meditate, but it is not the definition of the entirety of the practice of meditation. For that, we need something a little bit more broad, because a seating position, at least in my opinion, is not a prerequisite for meditating. So here on this channel, I like to to think about meditation as a technique that you can learn and use to familiarize your mind with something. And that's a weird thing to say because we don't go around saying, I'm familiarizing my mind with what groceries I need to get at the grocery store. Right? We are doing that, but we're not saying that. And so this kind of like that phraseology is a little strange to us. But our mind's main thing it's doing is familiarizing itself with things all day long. Things both new and things that we've seen countless times before. If we think about physical familiarity, like our body becoming familiar with something, I think it's easier to then take that and think about the mind aspect. So there's countless things that our body has become really familiar with. One very basic one would be walking. When you were a kiddo, you couldn't even walk, right? And then, little by little, it gets a little better. You're not very graceful. You're wobbling. You fall. And then eventually, barring if you have some sort of disability or something preventing you from doing so, now, however old you are, you're an expert at it. And you no longer need to think about the mechanics of walking. When you're a kid, you do, and you can kind of see it. It's like if you ever watch a little kid learning to walk, like it's very like almost like methodical, calculated, but in kind of like a bumbly way. So the idea is that, and this is true for anything you want to learn a new language, you want to, where your favorite coffee shop is, whatever. All of that is on exercise in familiarity, and the output is identical no matter what the thing you're becoming familiar with is. The more familiar you are with something, be it walking, learning a new language, etc., the easier it is for you to do that thing. It takes less energy, less concentration. It kind of just shows up more regularly. And the same is true for your mind, mental actions. You become familiar with them. And by doing that, those things, those mental thoughts and actions also start to show up more regularly without as much effort. For better and for worse, right? So for better, we can look at something like becoming relaxed, right? It's a pretty big entry point for people in meditation. When you are meditating and you feel relaxed, really what's happening is you are becoming familiar with relaxed you. There is a version of you that is relaxed. It comes out from time to time. We want it to come out more often. And in order to make it come out more often without as much effort, which, it may take effort at this point, we want to become more familiar with it, right? So if we become really familiar with relaxed us, then relaxed us starts to show up more regularly in our lives without as much effort. But also true for things like anger or anxiety. All of these other things that we don't really like, they also cannot escape the power of familiarity in our lives, right? It's very easy for us to get annoyed. We don't have to try. I don't have to be like, hold on a second. Got to get angry. It's so hard, though. I'm just so patient. Right? We don't say that. But having patience, especially in trying times, yeah, sometimes we do need to step back, create some space, right? And this is not because we are angry individuals or whatever. It's that we've had, over the course of our life, more practice getting annoyed than being super patient. And so your mind gravitates to what your mind is familiar with. And so meditation is actually about choice, choosing what do you want your mind to be familiar with so that that thing starts to become your default, starts to show up more regularly. That's what meditation is. And I like this definition. I like leading a class by talking about it because right away we can see that our original thought of meditation, sitting down, relaxing with our eyes closed, is just a small subset of what we can do with this practice. In fact, meditation can be used for anything that you want to become familiar with, like anything. So it travels well. Lucia, do some meditations focus more on body or breath to access deeper layers of presence, calm, and self-understanding? Great question. So we're going to talk about that a little bit right now. So when you learn meditation, usually they start with breathing meditation, which is a meditation in which the focal point is your breath. All meditation is what is called single-pointed concentration. And single-pointed concentration is exactly that. It is you focusing on one thing, which, to be honest, we're not that familiar with that at all. We are multitaskers, even if you don't identify as one. You are. I'm shrugging my shoulders while talking. Like this, my mind is, juggling all of these inputs. Right? And so what we're going to do with breathing meditation is actively choose to focus so exclusively on our breath that something interesting is going to happen. All of the other bowling pins that our mind is juggling are going to start to fade away into the background, right? All of the things we're worried about, et cetera, what we have to do after this class or this weekend or whatnot, they start to fade a little bit. And we get a sensation of relaxation, right? And Lucia, to your question, the focusing on your breath or any, they call it object, even though it's like not doesn't have to be a physical thing. Focusing on it single pointedly on something allows you to become extremely present with it, just like what you said. And it starts to, because you're so present with it, it allows you to find some subtleties of that thing. There are so many subtleties in all things. Breath, walking, the sound of my computer humming next to me, right? There's all of these subtleties that are around us for us to experience. But if our mind is juggling too many bowling pins, it's hard for it to notice some of those things, right? So we're going to do some breathing meditation here together. And really, breathing meditation and any meditation comes down to 3 steps, right? Give or take. Step 1 is we're going to set an intention to do this. Yes, Lucia, deeper appreciation, right? Deeper understanding, deeper appreciation. Exactly. Yeah. More nuance. So we're going to set an intention. And when I first started learning meditation a long, long time ago, I was much younger. I thought this was an unnecessary step, to be frank with you. I didn't understand it. But over time, old cynical me has learned. And this is a really important launch pad for any time you do a meditation, because each one of us has had meditative experiences before. If you've ever been like in the zone or something called like flow state, we're working on a document at work and we lose track of time. Maybe there's some construction going outside. That's like the noises are really annoying to us. But if we are like in the zone, we don't hear those noises. They're still there. The workers have not gone home. It's just that it appears to have faded, right? And so each one of us has experience with meditation already, even if you've never tried it, which is awesome. But most of those experiences are not us being like, I'm going to do this thing and then doing it. It's just like it kind of just happens, right? And so we want to start to train our mind that it can do this willingly when it needs to, wants to, etc. And so that's why we start every meditation. Step one, setting our intention, and all that means is saying something like, for the next couple of minutes, I'm going to focus exclusively on my own breath to the best of my ability. All right, like a little compass. In case we get lost on the trail, we can come back to the thing that we had set, the wish we had made. After we do that, the next step is to focus on our breath for breathing meditation. And I'll be guiding, so you're not going to be on your own. And as you're doing that, whenever you notice that your mind is no longer exclusively focused on your breath, and I do mean whenever, it can be, oh, what was that? Like an itch, right? Something quick like that. Like we're like, oh, interesting sound I just heard. Or it can, sometimes you get lost thinking about planning what you got to do tomorrow, and then, next thing you know, you're like, oh my gosh, I've probably been thinking about this a while. In either of those scenarios, in any other scenario that may come up, whenever you notice that your mind is no longer 100% exclusively focused on your own breath, we can just say, not right now, to those other thoughts. That's our saying here. Those thoughts are not bad. They are not unwanted. They are not intrusive. They are not distracting. They're just thoughts. Your mind thinks, just not now. And then the third step is to, once we have not right now those thoughts, we can bring purposely our attention back to our breath. So it's a little loop, a little 3-step loop. And over time, you'll notice that the more familiar you become with this loop, doing this activity, the easier it is to start to settle in, to start to single-pointedly focus on the object of your meditation and start to find some subtle joys hidden in those things. Cool? Okay. So let's do it. I am not on the floor. I'm in a chair. You too can be in a chair. You can be on the floor. Power to you, envious. With every passing moment, it becomes harder for me to sit on the floor. You can lay down. You had a long day. You're ready for bed. You can lay down. You can do anything you want. Doesn't matter. Just be relatively comfortable. That way you're not distracted about how uncomfortable you are. And go ahead and close your eyes. This is not a requirement. You do not have to close your eyes to meditate, though I will say I recommend it when you're beginning, because it kind of cuts out our tendency for visual distractions, which is probably one of the main ones we have. All right? Go ahead and close your eyes. I'm going to guide us through about a 5-minute breathing meditation. Okay. Step 1. Step 0.5. Whenever we start a meditation, before we do anything else, it can be really helpful to take a moment and check in with yourself, to ask yourself, how am I feeling right now in this exact moment? Maybe you're happy. Maybe you're upset. Maybe you're energetic, excited, or maybe you're tired, a little down. Whatever it is perfect. We're not trying to change anything here. The goal of this exercise is to be an observer, to practice observing your own mind. This is a technique known as mindfulness. Mindfulness is an active awareness of your own thoughts, moment to moment, for the purpose of being able to respond in a skillful manner to those thoughts. And that starts with checking in. Having done that, having taken inventory of our own mind in this moment, we can now set an intention, a little promise, a wish, if you will. And that intention is to focus single pointedly, exclusively on your own breath to the best of your ability for the next couple of moments. That's it. Let that wish, that intention sit at the forefront of your mind. This is your only task. All other things, all other thoughts, activities, worries, they can all wait. For the next few minutes, it's just you and your breath. I wonder what we'll find. With that intention set, that promise made, you can act on it. Turn your full attention to each breath, breathing in and out gently, naturally. You don't need to change anything about how you normally breathe here. Whatever comes natural, that's what I want you to do. Breathing in, breathing out. Very gently and very naturally. At some point, sometimes rather quickly, you may notice that your attention is drifting a bit. Your mind is splitting time thinking about things other than just your breath. Maybe something happened earlier today, or something you have to do after this class is over or tomorrow. Whenever you notice that your mind has drifted in this manner, we can just say, not right now, to those thoughts. We will get to them later. Actually imagine yourself picking up those thoughts and placing them beside you. And with those thoughts placed beside you, where they're waiting patiently, you can turn your full attention back to breathing in and breathing out gently and naturally. Single pointedly focused on each moment of each breath. How many times a day do you think that you take a breath? It's quite a lot. And in each of those breaths, which takes a couple seconds, there are countless moments, countless subtleties waiting to be discovered, to be felt, to be thought of. Very rarely do we focus single pointedly on breathing throughout our day. What happens if we do? What happens if every time you breathe in, you imagine that you're watching that air, visualizing it, moment by moment, moving from the atmosphere, being pulled towards you? Imagine that air, you're watching it enter your body, where it makes its way through you into your lungs. Simultaneously, your chest expands to make room for this energizing air. Your shoulders naturally rise. Breathing in. How wonderful. What about when you exhale, when you breathe out? Can you feel your shoulders naturally fall? Feel your chest contract. Can you watch that air? Follow it as it moves back through your body from whence it came. Watch it as it leaves your body. Reacquainting itself with the rest of the molecules of air in the atmosphere, slowly dissipating right before your very eyes. Breathing out. How wonderful. When you are single pointedly focused on something, you can start to glean some subtleties of that thing, that object, that activity, that situation, that feeling. Right now, you are getting a window into some of the subtleties of breathing. Things that have always been there waiting for you to discover them. I wonder what other things are waiting to be discovered. What other subtleties are at our fingertips. Breathing in, breathing out. Gently, naturally. This process of choosing to focus single pointedly on your own breath, noticing when your attention drifts, being able to guide your attention back. That is meditation. You are meditating right now. You are training your mind to tap into its natural peacefulness. Most importantly, you are training your mind to focus on what you want to focus on in this moment. And right now, in this moment, the only thing you want to focus on is breathing in and breathing out. Very gently, very naturally. For the last few moments, just enjoy sitting here, spending time with your breath. No need to think about too much. Just take a little time for yourself. Okay. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. Hello. Welcome back. Congrats, you did it. That's breathing meditation. And subsequently, pretty much all of meditation is that. Um, it's 3 steps, kind of like we talked about, but it doesn't mean that it's like easy to do. And if you found this to be difficult, like your mind was bouncing all over the place, congrats, you're part of an incredibly large club of everyone, including myself. And this moment, if you're new to meditation, is critical, because right now what we think about is we think about how do I say this? Like we think this is not for us, right? If we don't have the perfect meditation, right? But there is no such thing. You sitting here practicing that is the meditation. That's perfect, right? And so no matter what your experience was with this, I think it's important to remember that you did it and you did it perfect, right? And over time, you might find that this becomes easier for you to kind of settle in and whatnot. But the practice of meditation is meditation, not some outcome of it. Cool. Okay. So let's move on. Unless you have any questions about breathing meditation. And we're moving on. Give me 1 second. Okay. We're moving on to our topic. And our topic today is about, I'll call it space. Space. And this idea of space is really important in meditation land, right? And it's important everywhere. But when I'm talking about space regarding meditation, I am talking about mental space, right? But again, similar to this idea of mental familiarity, that's like a weird phrase. And we don't think about space in like a mental way, but we are more familiar with space in the physical sense. And it turns out that just like familiarity, the physical and mental components of it follow the same principles, right? So we can look to physical space to see how that affects our perspective on things, and then we can kind of translate that into the mental component, right? So what kind of physical spaces are there? Like, if we think about creating physical space, what does that entail? What comes to mind? Probably a couple things. I think the most common would be distance, right? If we're like, I'm going to create some space between myself and that tree over there, right? We move further away from the tree and we've created space. This is like the most, I think, like basic and most like common way we think about space in our life, in terms of distance, physical distance. What else? Time. Time is another big one, right? Like creating space, creating time, space and time. Like the what's the old? It's like, oh, time heals all wounds, kind of, or you know what that old saying or whatever, right? And what that means is that time, the space of time as it grows, changes your perspective on things. Something that was, let's say somebody said something to you that was like really mean, right? And right away you're like, it's very like a very potent feeling. But over time, what happens? It might not go away, but it definitely changes, right? Our perspective on it changes, right? And generally, it does feel less potent, right? So distance, time, there's a lot. The other one that I think comes to mind for me sometimes is like, I don't even know how to say this, loudness, like auditory, right? Like, if I am standing next to a car whose car alarm is going off, it's very loud, right? And as a result, I'm annoyed. I'm like, hey, you someone turn this thing off? It's so loud. Now, if nobody comes to turn it off, what happens? I'm still annoyed by this thing, right? Now, let's say by sheer tyranny of will, I was able to turn down the volume of this car alarm. Or maybe I put in headphones and listen to music. It no longer is annoying me, right? Because there's auditory space that has been created between the noise and myself, right? And so all of these things are just a window into the role space plays in our life. So what do all of these have in common? All of these examples, all of these, the three that we did. Any thoughts? They have a lot in common. I mean, but primarily, I think the link for me anyway is that space changes the potency of things. Whether that's how much I can see something by distance, how maybe like hurt I am through time, or, how like piercing a sound is through volume. All of those things are about changing our experience, our perspective and experience of something through spatial changes. So far, so good? Okay. What about mental space? So this is all physical space, right? We dabbled a little bit into mental space, but mental space follows the exact same principles, right? And things like anxiety, frustration, loneliness, jealousy, like any kind of mental state that you can imagine that is like, you could do without it. Be like, I wish that would go away. Those two are intimately affected by mental space. Right? And I want to do a meditation together now that reinforces this idea. And we're going to, can you guys hear me okay? I feel like I keep looking over my like stream and like it was doing weird stuff. This meditation is all about visualizing, using our imagination as a means to understand how space affects us, right? How space affects our mental experience of things, right? Lucia, some negative thoughts take up too much bandwidth in my mind. And that's I'm glad you brought that up. Because one way that I like to think about mental space is to kind of like, or, my mind, is to kind of imbue it with like a physical thing, right? So if you imagine your mind as like a room in your house or something, just a room, it's in there. And right now it's totally empty, right? There's no furniture in it. There's no art on the walls. It looks a little bland, but whatever. There's a lot of space in there, right? You can move around. Nothing's going to get hidden, right? You're not going to forget where something is because you can see everything, right? Total clarity. Now we start to add some furniture in that room, nice to have some place to sit and stuff. We had let's say we had 2 chairs. Very subtle, right? 2 chairs, understated room. Still a lot of space, right? As you keep adding more furniture to the room, what happens to the space of that room? It starts to shrink. And as a result, things aren't as clear. The couch is covering up things. And if something slides onto the couch, we may not know it for quite some time. And so your mind is like a room. And when we meditate, what we're kind of doing is starting to move some of that furniture. It gets cluttered. Exactly, Lucia. It gets cluttered. And that's fine. Just like your, house gets cluttered just by virtue of you living, your mind will get cluttered. And that's okay. But if we do a little spring cleaning to our mind, maybe we start to be able to see more of the room, like again, right? And so this idea of your mind being a room, we can think about like, negative thoughts, particularly ones that are really potent for us. Like if you like you're anxious about a specific thing, that's like a big armoire in your room, right? It's taking up a lot of space. And so, yes, that is a really great way of thinking about it. Like the bandwidth of your mind, how much space in there. Okay, cool. Oh, great. I'm glad you like it. All right, so we're going to do a meditation, and this one is going to be a little bit more um, using our imagination, right? Whereas before we were focusing single pointedly on our breath, noticing when our mind was like, "Hey, what am I going to eat for a snack later?" And then we're like, "Oh, go back to my breath." This, instead of our breath, we're going to meditate on a like a scenario. I'm going to be guiding it. We're going to use our imagination to think of this scenario. All right. And whenever you notice that you're no longer thinking exclusively, single pointedly on this scenario, what will you do? Not right now. To those other thoughts. Bring your attention back to the things I'm saying. Okay. So get comfy. Once again, close your eyes. Just take a moment and check in with yourself. How are you feeling right now? Just right now. It's not a comparison to before. Before is done. We only have now. Whenever you notice is perfectly fine. We are just observing, like a little scientist in a lab coat. We're just observing. Having done that, we can set an intention for this meditation. And this time, our intention is to focus single pointedly, exclusively on this visualization that I will be leading. That's it. That's your only task right now. To focus single pointedly on what I'm saying, bringing your attention back whenever it drifts. With that intention set, we can act on it. I'd like you to imagine that you're standing in an open field. You can see for miles. It is a beautiful, clear day. Just imagine it. Is there a breeze? How hot is it? Just really put yourself there. An open field on a beautiful blue sky day. And as you are standing in this field, you're looking around at all the sights. It's incredible to be able to see so far. And off into the distance, way off into the distance, is a mountain range. And above those mountains, miles and miles and miles and miles and miles and miles and miles away, are very dark storm clouds. Where you're standing, blue sky, most beautiful day. But off into the distance, a vast amount of space, are those dark clouds over those mountaintops. Just imagine it. Really try to place yourself in this moment. And as you're sitting there, what kind of things do you say? Probably something like, "Whoa, did you just see that lightning? That was wild." Or like, "Oh, how cool that we can see totally different weather so far in the distance." Our experience of those clouds is one of interest, fascination, curiosity. And as you're standing there, enjoying your time in this open field, you start to notice that those clouds seem to be getting a little closer. The gentle breeze is picking up a bit. And over the course of time, the space between you and those storm clouds dwindles. And at some point, the skies above you are no longer perfectly clear. They too are starting to become gray as those dark storm clouds are getting closer. In this moment, with those storm clouds pretty close, what is our experience of those clouds? Is it still one of interest and fascination? Are we still saying, "Whoa, did you see that lightning strike right near me?" No. Our experience of these clouds has changed, and our fascination, curiosity, interest is replaced by fear. We have to get out of the way. We have to go find shelter. The storm clouds that were interesting, fascinating to you, are the exact same storm clouds that created that fear. The only difference is what? The amount of space between you and the clouds. Space plays an extremely important role in our mental experiences. You ever notice that you're way better giving advice to your best friend than you are to yourself? Because when it's your friend, the storm cloud is far away. And so you can look at that situation, whatever it is, with fascination, a little more objectivity, curiosity. But if you're having a problem, it feels as though those storm clouds are right above your head. And it can be challenging to think clearly, objectively, to find the interest and curiosity in things like anxiety. And so when you meditate, when you focus single pointedly on something, all the other thoughts that are not that thing, the space between you and them increases more and more and more until things that may have been extremely cute, bothersome, we start to view them in a different way. We can start to look at things like anxiety through the lens of curiosity instead of fear. That is pretty cool. For the last few moments here, just imagine you're out in that field and those storm clouds are moving away again. Further and further, gradually being replaced by that stunning blue sky. Okay, when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Hello. Welcome back from your vacation into the open field. This actually happened to me, by the way. I was in Montana, and I call Montana big sky country. You could see for miles. And I was with my partner. We'd just gotten engaged a long time ago. And this happened. We were sitting there, beautiful, blue sky, and off in the distance, the clouds were like, whoa, check that out. And then I got closer and closer and closer, and our entire experience of that moment changed. Space is important in terms of clarity, right? And so we can think about meditation as a means of creating space, mental space between us and whatever, our thing that's bothering us is. And we can start to look at that thing differently. Maybe we even find some subtle aha moments in there, stuff that we hadn't really thought about. Cool. All right. Glad you guys enjoyed it. If you did have a great time, yay, come on back next week. We will be doing other meditation things and a new topic. Thank you to anyone who subscribed to my YouTube channel during this live stream, or anyone who has done so previously or chooses to do so in the future. It means a lot to me. It helps other people find this content. It's free, doesn't cost anything. And so thank you for doing that, for like being an ambassador for this type of thing. And if you're like, whoa, hey, meditation is kind of cool, and Keith's an okay guy. I do one-on-one private meditation instruction. If that's interesting to you, email me. I'm going to give everyone my email right now, but email me and we'll find a time. I do everything virtually. It's pretty laid back. And it's really good for focusing on something that you want to get out of meditation. Right? Maybe you really want to focus on anxiety. That's something we can do. Right? My email is Keith at meditationbreaks.com. I feel silly saying .com, but I think it's important. Right? It's not. It could be .net or something. That's my email. Email me if you have any questions on meditation, whether it was something we talked about today or previously or something you thought of. And if you are interested in doing any private instruction, you can also email me and we'll find a good time to work that out. All right. Thank you, everyone. It means so much to me that you choose to spend, each and every week here with me. You're amazing, and I very much appreciate you giving me the opportunity to do something that I love, to teach meditation. So thank you. And hopefully, I'll see y'all next time. See ya.